All right, guys, in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to validate your business idea. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Today, we're going to talk about validating a business idea. And this is something that a lot of people really struggle with. And sometimes what they do is they analyze the market and they see somebody that's already doing it, and like all of their hopes and dreams just go and it just, everything, just this pit in their stomach just happens, right? And so I get that. Or on the other side, like they know they want to do something, they just have no idea what to do next, right? They have a passion about something, but they have no idea what that should look like. So we're going to talk about what you can do. And I have a special guest joining me today. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I literally was trying to record a video and my dog is insisting laying on my lap. And he is not a lap dog, as you can see. He is a very big boy. So anyway, he'll be joining us today and providing his insight as well. Anyways, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing to do is this, and this is critical, all right, is deciding if this is really something you want to do. And that may sound like, come on, Chris, like, of course I want to do this. Of course, here's the thing, like, we enter into businesses sometimes and we don't recognize how are we going to feel in 6 months. It's like the episode of The Office. If you watch when Michael Scott came in, and if you haven't, I apologize, just bear with me. I'll try to explain it as much as I can here. But Michael Scott, the main like character of the show before like season 8, comes in and saw an episode, I guess, where Angelina Jolie was on Oprah and like adopted all these kids, and he makes a comment to Pam, who's a receptionist at the time, that he wants to adopt a baby, and he's asking her to look into like what he needs to do to adopt a baby, and she was going on about how it takes 6 months to the application process. He's like, 6 months? I don't even know if I'm going to want a baby in 6 months. And she's like, exactly my point, right? And so oftentimes this thing that sounds really exciting to us right now, when you think about, hey, is this really what I want to be doing in 10 years, right? Like, is this really what I want to be doing in 20 years? Because here's the deal. We may plan for this like amazing exit, right? 3 years, we build it, we sell it, we move on to the next one, right? And maybe that does happen. But you need to plan for it not to, right? And so I think sometimes what we don't ask ourselves is like, am I willing to do this for the long haul, right? Because here's the thing. Even if you are planning the exit, and I've done this, and this was me, right? This is why I'm trying to explain this to you. I was planning for the exit with my first business, not what I wanted to do. It was taking longer than I thought. But here's the deal. It wasn't just end in sight. It was the process therein, right? The journey kind of sucked because I didn't really love what we were doing. Unlike what I'm doing now, which I absolutely love. If this took forever, I would do it for free and I would just continue to do it, right? Like I didn't have to get paid. Like I love doing what I'm doing now and it's amazing. So I'm in alignment with what I should be doing. So that's a really important thing I would first ask yourself before you even get to the idea and really validating the idea itself is, is this in alignment with who I am? Could I see myself doing this through all the ups and downs? Because here's the deal, guys. If you're just doing it for the money, if it's just for the money, when things get tough and you fall flat on your face, and that's going to happen because it happens with being an entrepreneur, and it's just part of the journey, right? It's just part of what comes with it. You're going to have way more failures than you do successes and triumphs. Like it's just part of what this journey requires. There's not going to be enough to get you back up in the morning if it doesn't deeply resonate with you at a level that what we're talking about right now. So it's really, really important is the first understand. I know it's like the woo-woo kumbaya answer, but that's really, really important, guys. So first, is this something you really want to do? And the way that I analyze that is rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Everything about it, right? Make a list. And if it's not an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10, right, there's probably something in there that it means no, right? So I talked about it in my Essentialism book review, which you can actually check that out right above my head. And we read this book in my book club. But basically, what the premise of the book is that we have a tough time disseminating 5, 6, and 7s, right? 1s and 2s are easy to say, like, oh my God, I would never do that. But the 5, 6, and 7 sometimes is where we end up creating really undesirable situations for ourselves because it's not cut and dry, it's not clear. So the premise that he teaches you, the principle he teaches in that book is if it's not a 9 or a 10 out of 10, then it's a hell no, right? It's an absolutely no. So make it easy for yourself, use that metric, and rate it across every different aspect of that, whether that's lifestyle, whether that's the finances you're hoping to make, whether that's your passion for what you're doing, whether that's whatever, right? All of the aspects of this potential idea that you have or the model thereof, rate it on a scale out of 10 and figure out where you are, and that'll help you determine and kind of objectively look at, is this something you really want to do? Also, weigh the pros and cons. Do a basic pro and con checklist, right? And write down, these are the pros of doing this, these are the cons of doing this, and then sit on it for a few months, right? There's no rush, right? Only fools rush in. So take your time. If this thing is worth pursuing, no, like, somebody's not going to go off and launch it and make $1 billion, right? And if anything, if somebody goes and launches it, they're going to validate the market for you, so you know the idea is already valid, right? Right? So take your time, slow down, think it over, plan your steps, right? Do all of your homework and stuff like that. So don't rush in immediately. I know you're excited, and I know this is like, oh my God, I want to leave my job. I hate it, and I get that. But slow down a little bit, analyze it, assess it, do your pro con, do your scale 1 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 or whatever, and then just sit on it for a couple months and kind of let things just come to you. All right, moving on to the next one. So analyze the playing field. All right, so we talked about competition, and I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I said you're going to see competition, and you're going to go, and you're just going to feel like, oh my God, I can't do this thing because someone else is already doing it. If I had a nickel for every time I've heard a client or a student say that, I would legit not have to record videos. I would just be a billionaire, like, for real. Like, this is the most false narrative statement that exists in the world of entrepreneurship, 100%. And the reason is this, because you should have the opposite reaction than what you have. And I get that you've had it, and I can't say that I've been immune to it. I've had the exact same response to it, and it's just human nature to feel that way. But here's the deal, guys. We live in a world of abundance, all right? There is more than enough room. Think about all the people on the planet. What are we at? I don't even want to say a number because I'll probably be wrong. Was it 7 billion, I think, or something like that? Look, with the internet, with the ways we can reach people, and the depths that we can serve people, and the variety of different options that are out there, right, for people to choose from, right? It's like it's never been more of a consumer market than it is right now. There's going to be more than enough people that you can serve in the niches of that specific market. So here's what I want you to do. Go analyze your competition, because A, what does it do? It validates that, hey, people would obviously pay money for this, or maybe people wouldn't pay money for this. So here's the deal. You should actually be discouraged if competition doesn't exist, because what does that tell you? There's no such thing as a new idea. It's 2019 at the time I'm recording this video. Like, we've thought of it all, right? There's no such thing. There are new modalities. There are new iterations to old concepts and principles, but there's no real such thing as just a plain out new idea. And if there are, something that's very, 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 very few, far and few between, right? So here's the deal. It probably means that somebody tried it and it didn't work, right? Or there wasn't a big enough market, so that's why people aren't pursuing it, right? So here's the deal. Go analyze the competition, analyze what's out there in the playing field, and then what you're going to do is figure out this. How do I want to serve that's different to how they serve? Who do I want to serve that's different than how they serve, right? And then go analyze and assess that market contingent upon that. So I'm going to recommend you read a book called Choose by Ryan Levesque. All right, Ryan's a good buddy of mine. He lives here in Austin, where I live. He's been on the podcast twice. Actually, I'm going to link again something else you can go watch when you're done here, because I actually talked to him about this book specifically. But he has a metric that you can utilize using Google Trends that allows you to figure out, is your industry worth pursuing? And that really helps you analyze your market and analyze your business idea, because here's what he's found over time historically. There's a certain amount of search volume on Google Trends for markets that there's enough opportunity and enough consumers looking for said product or service that tells you, yes, this is a great thing to pursue. So if it falls within that range, right, of whatever he's deemed those 5 different markets, I don't remember, I know that's like orchids and beekeeping, or anyway, there's like 5 different markets that he analyzes and uses in the book. I don't remember them offhand, but they're like golden pillar markets that he's utilized, that he's been a part of, and that you guys can really utilize. But Choose is a great way to determine what market you should be in, and he is a super genius guy, like really, really awesome dude. So I definitely recommend that book as well. Again, check that interview, but also I'll put the link to that book below. Really, really good follow-up for what we're talking about here today. Run the numbers. Run your finances, and what is it going to take? All right, so and this is for the business projections. I know you don't have numbers; these are projections, but also with your own personal finances, because sometimes the idea might be great, and you might be able to pursue this thing, right? Or you might validate that it's worth pursuing, but your personal finances just aren't going to permit you to do that, right? So you need at least 6 months worth of savings to really jump into what you're trying to do full time, or you need a plan where you're going to do this on the side. or have side hustles in place. And I've talked about that a lot in my 3 stages of growing a business, which again, check that out. But best decisions in business are made in numbers. And so entrepreneurs, we have a tendency of getting really excited about this idea, and everything is blue skies and rainbows, right? And it's really exciting. And I don't want to rob you of that. I'm not here, to be Debbie Downer. That's not what I'm here to do. But you're going to have a really refined plan that you can approach, right? And that you can utilize if you know the numbers, both for the business and for your personal expenditures. On the business side, I know you don't have a business, and I know you're probably watching this like, Chris, I don't have a business. How am I going to come up with numbers? This is why analyzing your market matters, right? Because go see what other people are charging and kind of obviously call around, do some speculative work. Like if you feel like you need an office, which I don't think you do in 2019, I think you can, even with a physical product, I think you can use your garage or a spare bedroom for storing whatever physical product you're trying to sell. And that's assuming you even need the physical product on hand and you actually need to accumulate inventory, which you probably don't, right? So analyze that, keep your numbers lean and mean. And here's the thing, if you want to really challenge yourself, whatever amount of money you think you're going to make, cut that in half and then double the expenses, right? Or even triple the expenses that you think you're going to incur. And that'll give you like a good like sunny day scenario, but also like the worst case scenario, and you can plan for both, right? So plan for the best, prepare for the worst. You've heard that before. That's how this looks. So I would do just a basic Excel spreadsheet where I'd start putting in numbers. I would do phantom calls to competitors, right? Lurking on their websites, looking and seeing what they charge, why they charge what they charge, trying to figure out how many people they serve, right? Even if it's just rough estimates. If somebody runs a membership site, I can look at their Facebook group and I can get a rough idea of how many people are actually in that community. So that gives you a little bit of a barometer. There are ways. It's going to require a lot of investigative work. Continue to refine while you're thinking about pursuing this thing. Remember I told you, sit on it for a little bit, see if it's still something you want to pursue. While you're in that process, be working on the numbers, right? Be working through those things to either disprove or prove that this is something worth continuing to pursue. So something really important for you to do is run your numbers. I would say this, in that same time frame that you're sitting and thinking about this thing and letting it marinate and run your numbers, the next thing to do is to talk to 500 people. I'm not even exaggerating, 500 people about this idea and just run it by them. Now, the obvious inclination you're going to have is to run to your family, right? Keep in mind this though. Your family is out for your best interest. They don't want to see you in pain. They don't want to see you struggle, and they may not be entrepreneurial driven, right? So oftentimes what I find is that's really a painful place for people because they can't separate the personal relationship from the business relationship. So that's really a painful source for a lot of people. So I don't do that myself. My family, they're not entrepreneurial, right? I think my dad is probably the closest to that, but even he's not a true entrepreneur. So I don't do that. I made that mistake early on, and it really wasn't good for the relationships that we had, and it caused a lot of friction, a lot of tension, a lot of stress. So I don't recommend that. Talk to strangers, right? And I know that sounds really weird and icky, right? But there are networking events you can go to. There are places you can go, whether there's workshops, entrepreneurial workshops. I'm here in Austin. There's something going on literally every single day that's entrepreneur related. Talk to people about that. Here's the deal. They may know the market better than what you know it or have some familiarity or can provide you intros to your first customers, right? So it can't hurt you to do that. But also if you find people, you might find a mentor, you might find some people that want to partner with you. I mean, there's a million different things that could happen that are positive from you getting out there and talking to people about your idea. If you can, record those conversations if they'll give you permission to do that, or do follow-ups and interview them. Shut your mouth and listen, ask the right questions, and then shut your mouth and listen, right? And I say that in the most loving way possible, because here's the problem. When we have this thing we're excited about, what do we want to do? Talk. All we want to do is talk about it, right? And I get that. You need to listen, because people can provide you with tremendous insight, and it's your job to listen to what they have to say, first and foremost, and most importantly. So talk to 500 people over your 3 to 6 month wait period while you're still running through your numbers and analyzing your market. Talk to as many people as you can. Go to an event at least once a week and talk to 50 people and write down their responses. Do follow-ups, whatever you need to do. And if it's a potential person that is going to be a customer for you down the road, maybe consider having them as a beta customer for free or at a very deeply discounted price, and service the hell out of them and ask them a million questions in lieu of them paying you what you're going to be charging down the road, and really get feedback as far as what they valued, what they didn't value, what was different about their experience before. Really good opportunity for you to do that. Join Facebook groups, all right? So there are Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups that are specific to your niche or to your industry. And I want you in there lurking. I want you asking questions. I want you responding to people. I want you as engaged as you possibly can become. Because here's the deal. I talked to you before about knowing the competition and then figuring out who and how you serve those people that's different from your competition. You don't know that without these conversations. You don't know that without full immersion into what you're doing. So you don't need to go to just the events or just the networking things to be able to have these conversations. You can literally open your computer, not unlike the one that I'm recording from right now, and start engaging with those people, full submersion, right, into what you're trying to do, into that market, into the minds of that consumer, is really, really going to help you when you analyze it with the data, with the analysis you do online, and with running your numbers. And then what you can do is if you get people that are interested, provide some reason for them to join your email list and run surveys to those people. Maybe it's like, hey, I'd love for you to join my email list so I can keep you updated on how things are coming along as I'm building this thing out. And maybe you give some kind of freebie away, like you're going to get a 20% off for being one of my first customers in that beta email list, or whatever you want to do, right? Be creative. Run surveys to those people and continue, or even put them in a private Facebook group yourself of those people, and just ask them questions a lot. Like run polls, run surveys. I'm going to drop this below, but SurveyMonkey is a great way to build surveys. You can even use something it's not Google Sheets. It's the Google Forms. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of it at the time. Google Forms. Run a Google form, right, and analyze those responses, right, and figure out what people are responding and how they're responding, and if it aligns with what your perceptions of the industry were, what people are willing to pay, what they think it's valued at, why they think your product would be different, so on and so forth. Make it anonymous so people give you their true, actual, candid feedback. Even then, they probably still won't to the fullest, but it's your job to kind of present questions to them to get the most meaningful information out of them. So really, really think through that. Again, in the book Choose by Ryan Levesque, he also wrote a follow-up. It was actually the predecessor, but he wrote, it's a Star Wars thing, all right? Like he wrote one and wrote the other, but they're actually in reverse order, okay? So he wrote a book called Ask, which is really how to do that too, right? So Choose is how to choose the market. Ask is how to figure out what your customers really want. I would do that as a follow-up to that book as well. It's really, really good. And I'm going to tell Ryan he owes me big time for plugging his stuff this much, right? Okay, so I got a quick pro tip for you. Consider a job in the industry. And I know I just said something that probably made you cringe, and you'd probably just turn this video off. If you didn't, I'm glad, because here's why. I've seen many people. I just had a guest on, again, another link, Chris Van Vliet. He's a 4-time Emmy Award-winning TV host. He now runs an amazingly successful YouTube channel, 200,000 subscribers, growing by the minute. At the time you're watching this, it's probably like 250. I mean, he's growing that fast. Building an amazing business. He would not be able to do that if it weren't for the exposure and the credibility he had as a television host, right? It has literally been a direct symbiotic relationship as a result of, him in getting experience in that industry and the credibility he built as a result thereof. I had another guest who I don't have a video with, but also she came on my podcast, and I'll drop that link below. You can listen to that episode. Built a blog in the fashion industry that's highly successful, worked in the fashion industry first, actually had an internship, then a job in the fashion industry, same thing, all right? So view it as a paid internship to validate whether or not you want to play in that market, right? So you may never have worked in this industry before. You just see it as an opportunity. This is a great way for you to get the experience in an industry, educate yourself, but also figure out, I really don't want to do this like I thought I wanted to, right? So it's a great way to do that, even if it's a part-time thing. Great way for you to figure it out. You may fall in love and you take off and hey, you've got great, you can fall back on something and you love it, and you can build your business on the side while you're still investing in your education in that industry. So it's a win-win all the way around. I think that's, if you're willing to make that investment, I think it's a very, very smart one to make. Okay, moving on. Get an MVP off the ground as a beta, right? So get something off the ground. Specifically if it's like a service business or something like that. Just obviously physical products are a little bit different. I'm going to talk to you about that in a second here. But try to get just a minute, after you've done all this other stuff, right? Next, try to get just an MVP off the ground. It doesn't have to be the full bells and whistles of what you want to offer, just a basic core essence of what you intend to provide to your audience. This will give them an idea of what you're trying to offer and what you're trying to present, and also allow them to provide you with some feedback. Plus, if you build this big elaborate thing out and it doesn't go the way you expected, and now you have to go, most people overbuild is what I'm getting at. They overbuild and they didn't really nail the essence of what people are really looking for. So I'd rather see you build in iterations, focusing on first, what's the most important thing? What's the biggest challenge that people have, and how can I provide a solution for that, right? Get that off the ground. Now, I talked about physical products. So here's what I would consider if it's a physical product, right? I would consider taking pre-orders, right? Get some kind of a rendering, which is totally easy to do now. Get some kind of a rendering, or even if you have to make the product yourself, or just have the smallest amount of units you can have possibly made, right? I don't want you incurring massive overhead and having a lot of inventory that eventually you can't sell. I've told the story before, but I have a friend that invested $70,000 in a physical product. Got it trademarked, did the whole thing, can't sell them. Can't sell them. 70 grand down the toilet, literally. So I don't want to see you do that. I want to see that make that mistake. Physical product business is a little bit different because you do have not only the revenue lag, meaning you can't sell the product immediately, so you've spent money and now you're going to have a time frame. Now once the product's out, after you've made the investment, you're going to have sunk cost, right? More so than a revenue lag. I kind of misstated that. But anyways, you're going to have sunk cost, right? That you can't return those items and get it back, right? And there may be a point in time that it takes you to have this product and show it off before you actually make a sale and you're generating revenue. So I would get as few as you possibly can, or even renderings, right? And you're probably going to need a sample, right? Even if people see a picture, it's probably not something they're going to buy, right? So contingent upon what you're actually trying to sell, I would have something that's going to, be something you can show. Now, I know with t-shirts, like if that's what you were selling, some kind of clothing or something like that just has like a logo or something like that on it, they do renderings that look pretty real. But if you can get a sample of a physical product that you can actually use just for the images itself, right, that you're going to put on your website or however you're going to use it or whatever, I would consider something like that. So there's one more link that I'm going to provide, another resource for you. There's an episode that I did recently with the founder of Teamy, which they have blown up into a multi-million-dollar company, and she's in the e-commerce space. I've never been in the e-commerce space. I'm just now entering into it myself. And so she can give you some more insight as to how to get that. It was a great conversation. I think it's going to be really, really helpful. If you're in the physical product space, I definitely recommend you check that one out. Okay, so that was it for you guys. If I forgot anything, let me know. If you still have questions, drop those in the comments and maybe I can help you further kind of guide you along that path. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Share it with a friend. Maybe you have a friend that's trying to start a business and you're like, I don't know, man, you maybe shouldn't do that. Share it with them. Maybe this helps them, guide them along the right path, or maybe gives them some insight of things that they hadn't thought about. Also, guys, I mentioned the podcast on several different occasions. That link is below. There's amazing conversations. If you guys are driving to and from work, I don't recommend watching YouTube videos while you're driving. So make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Share this on social media, what have you. There's a bunch of resources below, business building tools. I have my Burnout quiz you can take that's 100% free to do so, as well as a 50% off to my book club, the VIP book club, for the first month. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next